Blah. All right, this one was taken by Kenny on their tour in 1981. I don't think it's 82. I think it's 81. So first time to California. Kenny went down the hill to take that photo of them. There's the Goog. When I went to go see the Mummies, I asked Jello Biafra about what happened at the Elite Club. It was so funny. I went to San Francisco for 48 hours, and one of my stops in San Francisco was going to be at the Old Fillmore, aka the Elite Club. That's where the very famous El Kabong incident with Doyle had occurred. In my travels, it was just impossible to get over there. I just was not able to. I was just on foot. It was just a lot of chaos. But what was amazing is I'm thinking to myself, I missed going to the Elite Club, but what was I really going to do there? I was just going to like hang around the outside, maybe like take some video, talk about the incident. Like it wouldn't have been that spectacular. And I didn't think anything of it. I went to go see the Mummies at the Knockout, which is a tiny little club in San Francisco. It was like a modern sort of San Francisco CBGBs, that kind of thing. And they were celebrating their 20th anniversary, and the Mummies were headlining, right? So it was really cool to see them. The show is great, lots of chaos. I'm, having a great time when I suddenly turn. Hold on. I have pictures for proof here. I'm not just talking out of the side of my neck. I turn my head, and there standing next to me is Jello Biafra. And I'm just like in shock. What was the incident? Well, let me tell you. For those of you who don't know, in a nutshell, the Misfits played San Francisco. I think it was their first time, and they're playing a place called the Elite Club. And what happened was they're playing this show, and the crowd is kind of wild, or I don't know. There's back and forth between the Misfits and the crowd. We've talked about it on the show before. And the crowd starts chucking full cans of unopened beer at the band. And there's no security. And there's several times the band starts and stops. I've listened to eyewitness accounts of the show from Kenny. Jerry and Doyle's brother told me his eyewitness account of what had happened. His eyewitness account is kind of graphic, to be honest with you. This friction with the band led to fights. Googie jumps out from behind his kit, starts fighting. Glenn starts fighting. Everybody starts fighting. Doyle uses his guitar like an axe and smashes a kid in the head with it and like just wrecks the kid. And from many different accounts that I've heard, the kid was like 14, 15 years old. He was a young kid. Mind you, Doyle is 16, 17 years old. He's not an old guy at this point. He's strong and muscular guy, but he's a minor too. It's referred to as an El Kabong. Like, what? Huckleberry, the fucking whatever, the horse, Quick Draw McGraw, whatever. El Kabong. He'd come down with his guitar and hit you over the head. And that's how people kind of like reference what had happened. And this thing really soured Frisco on the Misfit. Glenn has talked about it and said, well, there was no security. Where was the security? They're pelting us with cans. The Misfits walked off and they came back. They tried to keep playing, at varying degrees. So one of the people in attendance of the show was Jello Biafra himself. So to get back to what I was saying, here I am in San Francisco. I'm watching the Mummies, and I'm sort of like, it's a shame that I wasn't able to go down to the Elite Club, and I got something way better. Boom. There next to me, literally, I turned my head and there is Jello Biafra. The reason why I took this photo like this very specifically is because I wasn't going to ask Jello Biafra for a photo. I don't like Jello Biafra. I actually kind of really dislike Jello Biafra, but I'm still in Jello Biafra's presence. I'm shocked that Jello Biafra is like here in the flesh, this person who's like, an iconic punk rocker. Like he's a punk rock icon. Like, no matter what you think about him, like that's Jello Biafra in the flesh in front of me. And so I lifted up my camera and I took this picture, and the look on my face that you see is, how do I describe this? It's like, see, I'm telling the truth, that kind of look, because I was like, there's no way that I could leave here without being like, I was right next to Jello Biafra at the Mummies. And I wasn't going to ask him for a photo, as I said, it just wasn't going to happen. And I'm also like, I'm never going to be able to interview Jello Biafra. So this is the one time I'm going to get to like talk to him. So I better ask him questions about the Misfits. And so I did. Somebody else was like, can I get a picture with you? And he was so annoyed, like uncomfortable and annoyed that somebody asked him for a picture. And I offered to take the picture. I said, you want me to take it? The guy's like, yeah. And Jello's like, so I take a picture of him and Jello. The guy walks off and I just start chatting with Jello. I'm like, hey, Jello, hey, I got a question for you. He goes, that's fine, but I may not answer it. That's what he said. And I said, so what happened when the Misfits came and played at the Elite Club? And he starts telling me the story, and he starts telling me about how he told me a bunch of things. And what killed me was I wish I could have like pulled out my cell phone and like recorded his sound bites. And I was like, he's telling me this incredible stuff and I'm going to forget it. When I was leaving that night, I do a video journal. I like tried to regurgitate as much of what he said to me. So I had the information. And now I'm just trying to tell you off the top of my head. He said he used to love the Misfits and he loved all the early Misfit songs up until that show when he was completely soured on the Misfits forevermore. And he doesn't like them. And he talked about how they were these big, muscular guys, like all the stuff that people typically say when they're describing the Misfits. He said that they were mobbed up and that they were going to sue the venue. No, the kid was going to press charges. And in response, that he knew about, or at least he thought that Jerry and Doyle's dad was mobbed up and that they had a powerful lawyer, like a mob lawyer or something, and that they would sue the venue if they were sued by the kid because they were attacked at the venue or whatever. I didn't disagree with anything he was saying. I wasn't, because then he just wouldn't stop talking. I talked to him for about a good 15 minutes, just about a bunch of stuff. We talked about Mickey Lee. We talked about the sibling rivalry record that he put out with Joey Ramone, and Jello was saying, yeah, we want to re-release that, but we're having trouble finding paperwork or something. I kind of rolled my eyes out a little bit. I was like, you're not thinking about re-releasing that. I think I would have heard from Mickey because I had just been talking with Mickey. Mickey didn't say anything about that. So I felt like he was being disingenuous what he was saying. But back to the Misfits thing, I asked him, I was like, do you think it's like fucked up that like there wasn't security there that night? Like right or wrong, whatever happened, do you think that it was fucked up that there wasn't any security? He did this thing with his head where he was like, yeah, like he agreed. He essentially agreed without agreeing. He said that there was so much blood. He said he was like, I never saw so much blood in my life. Like, could not elaborate more about how much blood there was. In his retelling of the memory, he was like disgusted that they wanted to come back and continue to play songs, which is what happened. They left and they came back to play more songs before eventually they couldn't play because just a riot had broken out. I asked them about the loft and like climbing of the ladder and like were people waiting? Like I asked him all these things. He didn't remember as to whether they had hid up in the loft. It's my understanding that they had hid up in the loft. There's like this ladder that you can climb to get to this loft. But he did say that they like hid out in their van while there were people out waiting to beat them up or something, which is what I would expect Jello to say. And I'm trying to remember what else he said. Oh, I asked him that there was a story from the kid or a story from someone else who knew the kid, one of those telephone sort of stories that sometime later that the kid pulled a large splinter out of the side of his head or something that had come from the guitar. It sounds like a telephone big fish kind of story. He said to me that the kid needed 73 stitches and that it was just a brutal situation. He said that the kid was 14 or 15. He also said that Doyle was threatening with his guitar, that he was sort of brandishing it like, like a come on motherfucker, and like he had his guitar. Whereas I've heard other stories where Doyle was sort of trying to corral, he sort of circled with his guitar and used it as like kind of like a paddle to kind of like bring someone closer to him, and that's how it happened. I'm sorry it's not more put together in my retelling. This is just what I remember Jello telling me about what allegedly happened that night, according to him, from his eyewitness perspective. Still, I thought it was kind of amazing that like I had come here to like witness that history and ended up meeting an eyewitness who happened to be Jello Biafra at a Mummy show, no less. And all in all, the conversation we had was very pleasant, and I tried to keep him talking for as long as I could. And then the Mummies had finished their set, and he's like, I have to go to the bathroom, and he like walked off, and that was it. But it was just so funny to speak with Jello Biafra about the Misfits. I thought that was really fun. In any case, I digress. I went to Jello's spoken word one time, and it went on for 4.5 hours. He loves to talk, and I was surprised he was willing to talk to me about the Misfits, man, because I just didn't think he would, and I was just amazed that I got him to talk. Now, had I had a fucking recorder in his face, he might not have. I wish I should have fucking pulled out. I just couldn't get to it. I mean, I was right in front of me. He was right in front of me. I couldn't just pull out my phone and start recording. I wish I could have. That would have been amazing to get that on record.